All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Rodriguez, Chair for the Youth Activities Task Force. Tonight is going to be a subcommittee meeting for our Halloween. Any order of business, referrals, additions, deletions that anyone wants to add to this agenda to the subcommittee?
Yes,
meeting?
through the chair, I would like to add a new item 6A titled Name.
Okay. Anything else anyone wants to add? And I'll second your motion to add that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Ernie?
Just so I wanted to, like I mentioned yesterday, and I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware, I did look into whether or not we can have one or the other. And by one or the other, I'm referring to a drive-by or the actual haunted. From what it seems is that we are good to go for either or. So in other words, the decision is going to be made by the Youth Activities Task Force. So like I said, I wanted to bring that to your attention. You guys are more than welcome to discuss that.
Awesome. Just keep in mind that everything we do discuss today is not set in stone until we do meet back again with the actual full committee. That's what we were told by the town attorney. So we do have to bring everything back to the committee, meaning that we may have to call an emergency meeting in the next few weeks for this, because we are a month away from our next meeting. So just put that on the record. So we'll move on to item 6, which is the date, which we did vote last night with the committee, would be on October 29th for Friday. Then we'll move on to the name. So the name is more of, ties into basically the plan of the event. Whether we want to do it in person, when I say in person, like in the park, or to do the drive-through again. And that's why we have the subcommittee, so we can kind of decide what we want to do, to bring it back to the committee and let them know this is what the subcommittee is recommending. And then they can go from there, but we can bring the whole plan to them, which I don't think we'll have a problem with, since we are the committee as well. So it kind of helps us in our favor. Does anyone have anything on what they think we should or shouldn't do for this event?
Through the chair, if I may. I know you had said yesterday that typically when the event is done in person, we have kind of like a traditional name. What was the name?
So when it's done at Mary Collins or Picnic Park West, the traditional name is Nightmare on Montrose, because it is on Montrose Street. So if we want to do it in person at the park, we would hope to have it as that name, because that's what people recognize.
Through the chair, personally, I like the idea of doing it physically at the park. I think it's good to have a sense of normalcy in the community. And I don't think that our drive-through event would be as successful. So I would like to hear the other committee members' opinion on this.
Through the chair, I do agree. I don't really like the drive-through. It doesn't really involve or make kids join and just have fun. I think it's kind of like a little bit too what's it called, like monotone, vague, like you're just getting in the car going on the trip and then like coming back to the house. The normal Halloween events that we had in the past couple of years, or like in 2016, 2017, those have been like the peak of the Halloween events that we've had for Nightmare on Montrose. Specifically like the 2017 one, which is like I think one of my first Halloween events. That was a bang. I really like that one. So we should probably go back to that one, and hopefully we'd have like a lot more volunteers trying to participate.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest one we've ever had was actually the first one that we did in the park. And I know Juan was there for that one. We changed from the Blockbuster location to the park, which was a completely different event from everything. So everyone was curious about it, but the turnout to that event was bigger than any other Halloween event that we've had, going over 8,000 people almost. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It is a very large event. Due to COVID restrictions and guidelines, I don't think we're gonna have as many people because people may be scared to come out or just don't feel comfortable with it. But overall, I think it is a better idea to have it in person back in the park just to get some normalcy back to our events. So we're not just, like you said, and I said this yesterday, people want to experience it, not just show up and leave. Juan, do you have anything?
No, I agree.
All right, so it looks like we're pretty much going forward, or what we're thinking is doing it in. Suggestions? Nope, all right. Because it is a little more of that darker Halloweenish atmosphere at night. There's lights, but not as like the big bright lights that we have in the parking lot. Words?
Thank you, Chairman. Quick question, when it comes to hosting it at parks, does it have to be at Picnic Park West, or can we use other parks such as Royal Oaks?
So I would love to do an event at Royal Oaks Park one day. The only problem with that is parking. Especially with these bigger events. If we were to maybe do a smaller event, I think we should look in the future at other parks. So it's not just that one park all the time, because that's where all our events are. But I'd say look around, maybe having some at Optimist one day or Royal Oaks Park, different things, different parks. But for this event specifically, and it goes hand in hand with Spring Fling, this is one of those events where it's a lot of people, meaning a lot of cars. Those cars have to go somewhere. If you look at Royal Oaks does not have a big parking lot at all. So we might want to look into possibly keeping it there at Mary Collins or at Picnic Park West, just because there is parking all around it.
Something to keep in mind as well, just to piggyback off of what Brian was mentioning, Maritz, Royal Oaks Park does have lights aside from
Coming back to the park instead of making it more extravagant like we always do. I just say for this year, slow it down a little bit and have it how we had it the previous time we did it at the park. people, it's been almost 2 years since we did it at this park. So, or did this event, actually, how we want to do it or how we're looking at doing. Meaning we'd have a trick or treat area of the park, either a haunted house or a scare zone. We'd like to see what they want to do because they are both different. A haunted house is more of a structure maze type of deal, and the scare zone is basically on the walking path of the park and they walk through it and that's it. So that's something that we may not decide today, but we may decide it at the next subcommittee meeting once we have some more information from FX. We would also be doing pumpkin decorating like last time. And and I think food trucks we had talked about yesterday as well. It's a very simple yet extra big event, right? We'll have a DJ, a costume party, different activities for them to do while they're there. I know in the past we've even talked about maybe doing a movie during that event, which would be cool. So may not be able to do it this year because of budget. Usually this budget has been budgeted in the past for around 25 or $20 to $25,000. I believe we have a budget of 15. So that is one thing to keep in mind, that we do have a little bit of a lower budget with this event over the past few years. So a lot of it is by sponsors, in-kind sponsorships. So that's another thing that I wanted to bring up. If you guys know anyone that would like to sponsor this event, please start contacting people. The more sponsors for this, the better. And I think the subcommittee meeting or at the subcommittee could also decide for the sponsorship packages, how much each item is going to be for the title sponsor, the gold and silver sponsorship, or the gold is the title, my apologies. So gold, silver, bronze.
Through the chair, we can discuss the sponsorship today.
For this sponsorship, for this event, yes.
First, I want to ask a couple of things and talk about a couple of things. First, the pumpkin decorating. Is this typically done like before the rest of the activities start?
Starts as soon as the event starts.
And it ends in like an hour?
It all depends how fast the pumpkins go. So you come with a ticket, basically Eventbrite, you check, there is a check-in booth at that section. It's under a pavilion usually. You check in, you get your pumpkin and your decorating stuff. It's all on tables, and then you decorate your pumpkin and you're done.
Right. And then when it comes to food trucks, is there maybe any food trucks in the area that when the holidays come, they have like a theme? Like, is there a Halloween food truck, something like that? Do you think?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? And then I wanted to talk about the number of volunteers. So considering, I did see a picture of the number of volunteers at one of the previous events, and it was a really big number of volunteers. I think considering that we don't, I guess we could say that our past events, not a lot of people have gone to them, like the end of summer bash. It was a successful event nonetheless, but I think considering that, I think maybe we don't want to go overboard with the number of volunteers. I think in the past events, at least this year, we've had a problem where we may have volunteers that they're not really doing much. They're just sitting there collecting hours.
So here's the thing with this event. Depending on what we do, that's why we have to decide before we decide on the number of volunteers, is if we're doing a scare zone, it changes the number of volunteers unless we're doing a haunted house. We have to see which one we're doing because that changes the number of volunteers. Okay. If we're doing the scare zone, it's about 5 students per tent, and we usually have 10 tents. So that's 50 volunteers right there, right? If we do the haunted house aspect of it, it's maybe 10 volunteers in that one area instead of 50, right? So it all depends on what we want to do. For the actual trick or treat tents, it's about 4 to 5 volunteers as well, because they're there to decorate the tent and also decorate the event itself.
And through the chair, so in your experience, what would you say is more successful, the walkthrough or the haunted house?
So they both do the same thing, basically. The only thing is for the haunted house, it has an actual line instead of just walking through. And I think it's a little bit better to do the haunted house because it's more of that more scary, spooky aspect than having that scare zone. The scare zone's cool because that's one of the first things I did when I came to this committee was the Halloween event. And I was only in Blockbuster for 1 year. And then we went to the park. But when it comes to the scare zone, it is cool because the volunteers do get to decorate it more. But at the same time, one, it makes it a lot harder for us because we need more decorations, things like that. It makes it more expensive for the committee, believe it or not. Right? And a little more complicated. But when they do the haunted house, we do decorate stuff from us in there, but it is brought in by the company that does it as well.
So in other words, it's less money from our budget.
It may look, it's both, right? It may look like a lot more money, but we're getting a lot more out of it. Because we're bringing in a professional company that does this. So they're bringing in their technology, their props, everything, their smoke machines, things like that, right? So then that's what I believe. I like the haunted house idea more because they're, like I said, they're a professional company. They've done this for many years and they've been doing this for us for a few years now.
I see. And you said we were waiting for permission or,
No, I think we got permission already. We just have to decide which one we want to do. Or which one we're gonna present to the committee, what we want to do.
well, through the chair personally. And I do like the idea of the haunted house. I think, you think of Halloween. I think haunted house is one of the things you think of, not the what was it, the scare zones. I think it fits our event better.
Anyone else in the committee have any other comments or what they would want to do? One?
I think if we don't have that much money and maybe FX is charging too much for one for like the house, then we can get a lower, like the house that's not that advanced and also have a scare zone, having both, depending on what the
Yeah, we could
The
definitely
volunteers
look
can
into
do
that too. Of having both. I think we tried that 1 year, but the budget was too low. I know with effect.
It's all dependent on the monies.
Yeah, for sure. That's the only thing is the amount of money that we have. You have to remember that these tents are upwards of $100 per tent. And when you have 10 tents, that's another $1,000 or more.
Through the
Yep,
chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. If we were going to do both, I think maybe it's more feasible to decrease the number of tents since we already have a haunted house.
That could be possible. Then I don't think there's a reason to have a scare zone. Because a scare zone, you don't want to have 5 tents and that's it. You want it to be a little bit lengthy, right?
So it's tents right after each other.
They're a little bit, they're close to each other, but they're also spread out. They're covering like the corner of the track in the back of the park. There's trees over it. It kind of goes on that curve. And remember, we usually get 10 to 15 tents for the trick or treating area. I don't know the exact number, but we have to look into that. So since there's already money going towards those tents, I would take into consideration if we want to do the scare zone area as well. One, it's kind of competing with the haunted house, as well as costing us more money. So if we're gonna pay for a haunted house, I'd rather pay that money from the scare zone if we want to do the scare zone and put it towards the haunted house to make it better. Right? The more money we put in, the better prop haunted house we get. So that's something that we can look into for the next meeting. I don't think we need to have the number of volunteers today per se. That could be done at the next subcommittee meeting, which will be happening in the next 2 weeks or next week. It may be next week or the week after.
Through the chair, if I may, Mr. Soto, is it possible, I know Christina used to make little maps of events. Is it possible maybe we could get one of these maps for either the event from 2 years ago or the years before that, just so we can take a look of how the outline was?
Absolutely. I will make sure that those are ready and on hand for the members, the committee members, and anyone else who is willing to take part. So yes, I will have them ready for you guys.
Awesome. Also, keep in mind for the DJ, it's usually by effects as well. It's almost like a package.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Effects also does the DJ for us.
And they
One-
do the haunted house?
They do both. They're a entertainment company or FX company. So if you've never seen FX in doing their job with us or working with us, they basically come as a package where they do all the audio and the lighting for our event.
Through the chair, that if that's the case, I really do like the idea of the haunted house more. I think it's simpler for us. It may save us money, and I think it's better overall compared to the scare zone.
And Ernie, can we look into trying to see if we could get the stage from the county? The mobile stage? We usually look into it because I think that is free.
I do recall having the stage, and that's where we had the Halloween, the costume.
Yes. So if you can speak with, I guess Christina might know who to contact for that if you could.
Yeah,
check.
that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
I do recall having the what's it called, the costume
The costume
competition.
contest, yeah. So I think we're basically good on that. Right now, I don't think we need to go into too much detail. This was just to get an overall of what we wanted to do and then to give insight. Different themes. So trick or treat tent of what you guys want to see or see differently. So we don't do the same thing every single year. I'd like to change it up because we do the same thing every year. And we could have a little bit of fun. It might be, I think we could still do the costume contest, no problem. The trick or treat, we'll see, and we have to look at our budget for this event, and if we do get sponsors, how many tents we can have and what we can do with the money. I don't think we'll have a problem getting some sponsors to sponsor the event. It may not be a lot because of COVID. Some people are scared to sponsor because they don't think a lot of people are going to show up. So maybe more of our typical sponsors that we usually had for our events. So we'll reach out to them as well. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
Through the
One.
chair, Maritz, I found Zombie Ice as a food truck. It's in Weston. So just in case you want to contact it. It's called Zombie Ice. Zombie Ice. It's a snow cone.
Through the chair, if I may, I really like what we did for the end of summer bash with the tickets and the ice. If we can provide like something small like that, I felt like the families really appreciated it. And it was, I don't know, I know we paid them up in advance. How much was it?
our main attraction. And we want to give the town residents and our guests, something to talk about.
Yeah, so they are still getting something for free, which is candy. The only thing that they may pay for, which we can look into if we do have a budget and we don't have to make people pay for, is the pumpkins. But we could always charge for that, but we don't have to talk about that today. We could talk about it at the future meetings for this subcommittee, is with the pumpkin decorating, what we're gonna do. I know we don't do carving just for safety reasons. It's more stickers and markers or paint, things like that. Just to make it a little bit easier and a little bit quicker when they're decorating their pumpkins. But overall, I think we're basing, it's a very simple plan. It's not super strategic yet. It's just an overall of what we're thinking of doing, which is basically going back to our roots and how we did it a few years back. Just because we already know how to do it, it makes it a little bit easier for us coming back from not doing it over 2 years. We already have this plan that we've done in the past. So we could go off of that plan, see how it goes. And then in the future, we can make it bigger and bigger, just like we did with Spring Fling. Spring Fling was very simple, and then we brought in a helicopter. Now that we have a helicopter, it's very hard to beat a helicopter. You can't really downgrade after a helicopter, right? You can only go up. So that's what happened with Halloween. I don't think we can't, like for Halloween, we already have a haunted house. Can't we basically covered everything that we had to. Next meeting, I'm sorry for those that maybe listen, you're not here around what we.
um, and I can go ahead and shoot that information over to you, Brian, and you can make a choice, a decision as to
Yeah,
when
so
you think
yeah,
would
if
be
you guys
best.
have anything, that's why I wanted to ask everyone here what days they're okay with. I know people care maybe for Fridays, so we don't have to do Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. It could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It could be any of those days you guys can pick. It could be next week or the week after. I'd say maybe at least a week so we can get in contact with FX and have an update maybe next week.
Right, with
Okay.
FX, it's just no, it's just a back and forth that we're gonna go. Again, let me check with the town,
Yeah, let me know and then,
and I'll make sure I forward you those dates, and you tell me which one you think feels
Okay.
best. Don't worry too much about you know me getting in contact with FX. It doesn't matter.
okay.
Let's
that's fine.
let's get the ball rolling. Let's get our heads together and see what we can do.
Okay, so everyone's okay right now with any day after 6, depending, Ariana?
I actually will, if it's possible, maybe like on a Tuesday or Thursday, because Monday, Wednesday, Fridays can be kind of difficult with like work, but that's just like,
That's fine. And depending on what the town gives us, I don't think Thursday is gonna be an issue. There's usually not many meetings on a Tuesday or Thursday unless it's a council meeting.
okay, another question. I remember we did like a subcommittee meeting with just the committee itself, and then we had a subcommittee with like the volunteers. So for next like month for October, would we do the same thing for at least one of the
Yeah,
monthly
so we could
meetings?
look into that, how we did it before for those that are new with the committee as well. Meetings with the actual volunteers. That meeting day before the actual meeting with the volunteers, there is a subcommittee meeting. Just so we could catch everyone up to speed of what's going on and what we're gonna go over in the actual meeting with the volunteers. And we meet with the volunteers, because it is a big event with a lot of stuff going on. And we let them have that chance to kind of prepare and lay out what they want to do and get into groups with their friends basically as they come in and just say, hey, pick one of these themes. Usually we give them the themes off of what we already have in storage. The only reason we do that is so it kind of saves us a little bit of money as a committee. So we don't have to go buy everything brand new. Whether it's costumes or decorations, we already have pirate decorations or graveyard decorations. We don't have to go buy that again. We even have clown decorations and an Easter bunny. I think we have a rabbit costume somewhere that someone wore on Halloween, but we have different things like that. I think we had a decapitated Mickey Mouse head at one point in one of the haunted houses. So we do have a lot of different props that we can use to our advantage and we should actually have our next subcommittee meeting possibly at Mary Collins. We can look into that, Ernie, if that's possible.
I will look into that.
Should definitely look into that because for this event, I think we should be on site. Because then if we want to do a subcommittee meeting before the volunteer meeting, we'd have to literally do it here, then go all the way to Mary Collins, which I don't think is productive at all. But seeing that we've gone over basically everything, I think we are good. Does anyone have any more comments, concerns, or anything that they want to bring up? Brits?
Thank you, Chairman. Quickly, I just want to say, Mr. Soto, if it would be possible, regarding what the chairman was saying, I think it may be helpful if we can have an inventory at our next subcommittee meeting. Whenever you're at Mary Collins, if you can just note down or take photos of what we have, just so that makes it a little easier.
Awesome.
Through the chair. In case they don't let you do that, all we have to do is just say we're meeting at Mary Collins and do an inventory.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't have to be a subcommittee
Right.
meeting. We could just meet there.
Because like you say, we've always done it every year. So in case they say you can't do it this year, okay, we're gonna have an inventory meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. We could do that too. So we could just go and just see what inventory we have.
I'll bring the food.
Is that allowed?
But but I think we're good on that note, and we'll go into that more for the bagel discussion. But we'll move on. Any announcements that anyone has? Really quick, I just want to thank everyone that's here for showing up. I know Eddie Sedeno just texted me asking if the meeting is still going.